There is a persistent modern fantasy that the legal system contains a hidden sequence of words, a functional off switch for government authority that can stop a tax audit or a police officer in their tracks. For sovereign citizens, this is more than a fantasy. They are convinced they have found a way to bypass the state entirely, removing their obligation to follow local laws or pay taxes. Their logic follows this diagram. They view government authority as a strictly commercial contract, one that only becomes active if a person provides a physical signature. While this legal theory is entirely fabricated, adherents structure their daily lives around it. This creates an inevitable collision course with actual law enforcement. This photo shows members of the Moorish National Movement, a group that applies this specific interpretation of contract law to the road. One member, Mark Stevens, decided to test this theory in a real-world encounter. Stevens attempted to officially opt out of his state contract by removing his government-issued license plate and replacing it with a fake, self-issued Moorish national plate. State police officers spotted the unregistered vehicle and initiated a standard traffic stop. When those police lights activated, they initiated an impromptu roadside trial. Stevens's imagined jurisdiction was about to clash with the physical reality of the state. The interaction began with a routine request. The officers asked Stevens to produce his driver's license and vehicle registration. Stevens refused. Instead, he cited his constitutional, quote, right to travel, arguing the act of moving from place to place was distinct from the act of driving. This diagram illustrates his defense. He argued traffic codes are strictly corporate rules. Because he wasn't driving for profit, he fell into a category police couldn't regulate. By placing himself here, he severed the requirement for a license or registration. In his mind, he had delivered a flawless opening statement, using the state's own constitutional language to neutralize the officers standing outside his window. Stevens then produced a physical document like this one. While it looked official, it was a laminated collection of pseudo-legal jargon and fake wax seals. He followed this by reading from a prepared script, informing the state troopers that he was placing them under citizen's arrest for violating his rights. This flowchart tracks his next threat. He claimed he would sue the officers for millions of dollars in private maritime courts, a venue he believed would allow him to seize their personal assets. The officers remained professional. Ignoring the legal theater, they issued 3 final warnings for Stevens to step out of the vehicle. Facing physical removal, Stevens stated his final objection, the phrase, "I do not consent." This moment illustrates the core of the sovereign citizen strategy, the belief that a specific declaration of non-consent creates a functional legal barrier against the police. The officer's response was immediate. "Your consent is not required." The officer demonstrated that the state's authority doesn't stop at verbal objections. He shattered the driver's side window, sending safety glass cascading into the cabin. Officers reached through the broken window, unlocked the door, and pulled Stevens out of the vehicle. The imagined shield of non-consent was gone the moment it was tested against the physical enforcement power of the state. The case moved from the roadside into a formal state courtroom. While movements like this often find an audience with the press, as seen here, the justice system handles their arguments with minimal ceremony. The presiding judge discarded Stevens's paperwork, officially classifying his defense as legal gibberish. Stevens was convicted and sentenced for resisting arrest and operating an unregistered vehicle. Ultimately, the law is not an opt-in service. It is a binding system enforced by the state, and it remains in effect even when a citizen refuses to acknowledge it.